afternoon, students and parents. This is reading using the constructed response method to answering questions. So it's reading comprehension using the constructed response model. And we'll be doing this more frequently. There will be tests for the constructed response model. So I know it's difficult to do all the steps, but that's what's going to be required in 4th grade when you answer questions in complete sentences. So give it your best effort, and I hope you do well. So we're going to be using constructed response. We're practicing constructed response, and this is because you'll be asked questions in which you have to create sentences for 4th grade. And you're going to read passages, they're going to ask you questions, and they aren't going to give you multiple choice. They're going to ask you to create a sentence. So this is an example of how we create a sentence to answer a question. Now, you're going to be able to use this all the way through college, so it's a good skill to learn. We're changing it up a little bit. I'm going to use a president's job at home and around the world for comprehension as well. So your reading assignment this week, your passage, and your constructed response is the same. It's not, your constructed response isn't a previous passage. It's going to be the passage that you're reading this week. And this is too also how it's going to work. You aren't going to be able to get through, you're going to have to be able to get through passages and answer questions in a single sitting. You aren't going to be able to get much of an opportunity beyond that when you're taking a test. So we're stepping it up a little bit. I'm going to add some new things to this that are a little bit difficult, but I'm going to help you through it and show you what the answers are, but I still want you to fill in the answers that I fill in on this sheet. So this is our sample sheet. You will get one that you have to fill in on your own. So for our constructed response, how can you see how example 1 has been turned into a statement? So here's the question for example 1. This has all been filled out for you. What kind of responsibilities does the president oversee? And here for the statement was changed to the president is responsible for overseeing, and you notice there isn't a period here because the sentence is going to continue with the answer here. There's no capital here. There is a period here, so these two are going to be combined in a complete sentence. Now you can see that I've taken some of the words from the question, and I've had to change them around a little bit. And like oversee, I had to convert to overseeing. Responsibilities, I made singular. The president is responsible for. So for wasn't there, president was here. So even though I'm creating my own sentence, I can take some of what's inside the question and turn it into a statement and use those words. The personal response is added at the end. So here's the end, the personal response. This again is my own words. And this is why it is italicized. Italics is when the letters are slanted a little bit. The font is slanted. Follow examples for the other questions. Okay, we'll get to those questions later on. The italics test are the areas where you need to write independently in your own words. So these two areas are a little bit more difficult. Put the statement, answer, and personal response all together into a sentence. Cite the text using a highlighter. So you're going to need your highlighter as well. So let's see what we did in the example here. The question was, what kind of responsibilities does the what kind of responsibilities does the president oversee? I changed that into a statement. The president is responsible for overseeing, and then here is the answer. I'm going to show you how to highlight that later. And here is the personal response. He has such a big job, he must need a lot of help. That's my personal idea about what the president has to do. He can't do this job by himself. It's too big. And then I added these three together, the statement plus the answer plus the personal response. The president is responsible for overseeing the money system, courts, armed forces, schools, and parks, to name a few. Okay, because there were more in the text, and we'll get to that where the answer is. And then I added my personal response. He has such a big job, he must need a lot of help. So this is really my complete answer down here. And these are the three sections that we divided up, and you can do separately, but you have to combine them at the end. So let's take our highlighter and look at our passage this week and find out where that answer is in the passage. Again, the question is, what kind of responsibilities does the president oversee? And since I already did this, I think pretty much I know what the question is. I'm looking for that. So I'm not reading everything directly. I'm kind of seeing that, well, this doesn't say anything about that. And yes, in paragraph 2, it says here, what kind of things? It says, what in our country the president oversees. In our country, the president oversees many things. What kind of things? And they start naming things here. Okay, so here's all the things they name for me that he oversees. Now, I put this into one sentence, and they put it into several sentences. Now, here's another one, energy and transportation. I didn't include that in my answer because it didn't ask for all of them. I could have put that in there. But that's where my answer is for question number 1. So I highlighted it with my marker. Your passages is going to have a number of different highlights on it as you get to questions 2 and 3. And it goes all the way to 6, but I'm going to help you with 5 and 6 because that's a little bit more difficult. So this is just kind of a review of what we've been doing for the first quarter, and we're going to continue this into the second quarter and the third and fourth probably. Okay, I'm not going to answer 2 and 3. Those are going to be for you to answer. What happened to people's lives during the Great Depression? So you're going to have to find something in here about the Great Depression. You don't have to reread the whole text, but you are going to have to turn this into a statement, come up with an answer, a personal response, and then combine that down here. Number 3, what war was being fought during Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency? Same thing here. The war fought during Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency was, what was it? That would be your answer here. Then you give a personal response, and you add all 3 of these together for your complete answer. Down here I have a little note. I know this is difficult, and I understand that. So I add a little note here explaining to parents and to you guys just how difficult it is. What kind of genre would this passage fit into? Okay, let's go over the genre here. Now this is going to be a little bit difficult, so I'm going to help you. If you remember, this part here is the introduction. And I want you to get out your passage and go ahead and follow me with this. This down here is called the conclusion. We've had these 2 topics discussed before when writing. We always start with the introduction and we always end with a conclusion. Do you remember what the informational part is? This part that the passage is really kind of explaining everything. Do you remember what that's called? This part here. This is called the body. So it's like the head and the feet down here, and the body is in between. Now, why we do that is sometimes it's easy to explain the genre that way. You notice in our narratives, this first part was the setting. Told us a little bit about the characters, told us something about the setting where the action is going to occur and when the action is going to occur. This doesn't have a setting to it. It's not telling us the time of day. It's not telling us where it happened. It's just giving us information. So we know that this is information. Okay. As far as the genre, we know it's nonfiction. And if you remember that word that we had before for information in non-fictional text, it's expository. This is really kind of the fourth grade word that I'm looking for. But all of these fit. Now there's one other thing about this that's added to this genre. In the introduction, it's telling us what they're going to explain in the body. Let's read the introduction. It is a big job being the President of the United States. Presidents manage things in our own country. So they manage things in our own country. Plus, they play a part in what's going on all over the world. They play a part in what's going on all over the world. Now, these two topics, as they're called, this is called a topic paragraph, we're not going to discuss that just yet, have told us what the rest of all this passage is going to be. It's going to be about the president's big job, managing things in our own country, and playing a part in what's going on all over the world. Paragraph 2 here is in our country. So right here, these two, this second paragraph is going to be exactly what they said they were going to explain right here. Manage things in our own country. That's what this paragraph is about. Managing things in our own country. Over here it says, play a part in what's going on all over the world. For the world. Our third paragraph here, they're going to explain about what's gone on in the world. And then they give us two examples of two presidents, how they did both these things. What happened in our country and how they played a part in the whole world. The Great Depression, World War II, civil rights, the Vietnam War. So this is a very well organized passage. Now in the conclusion and the introduction are nearly the same. Each president has to deal with things going on in our own country and around the world. It's a mighty big job. You see up here where it says it is a big job? They're only restating what they started with in the introduction. We call that a conclusion. These are the two bookends. This opens the passage, this closes the passage. Okay? And we call this kind of writing expository, informational writing, an expository essay. Now, the craft they used was the craft and structure. Here they started from 1933 and they ended in 1969. And we have dates in here. This is called chronological order. Remember the passage about the tree and the rings on a tree? Those rings are in chronological order. We aren't going to use beginning, middle, end, or we're going to use, when they start using dates that are further apart, we call that chronological order. And that was just what they used right here, chronological order. And they structured it as an essay. This is a 6-paragraph essay. So the structure here is a 6-paragraph essay. Very commonly called a 5-paragraph essay, but we have 6 down here. So this is a 6-paragraph essay. Is the craft and how they structured it. And here's the two examples they're going to discuss throughout the whole essay. This is a very well written essay. Even though it's relatively easy to read, the way it's put together is relatively complex. And if you write an essay, this is a good example to use as a model for a good essay.